everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am here to talk about my August TBR. I can't believe that it is already almost August. That is absolutely insane to me. But before we get into the TBR, I just want to say that the last couple of months I've definitely been neglecting the physical books that are on my bookshelves. So this month I decided to really dive into my bookshelves and read more of my physical books because I have had a recent obsession with Kindle Unlimited. So I've just been reading a lot of ebooks off of that service, but I have been neglecting my own personal library. So this month's TBR will definitely remedy that situation. So without further ado, let's just get into it. There are a few books that were on my July TBR that I have not gotten to and will probably not get to, unfortunately, before the end of the month. So whatever books I haven't gotten to yet, I will try my best to get to those in August. Also, I did not get a chance to reread The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I have read this book once before, the year it came out, back in 2018. But the reason why I haven't reread this yet is because I'm actually waiting for the audiobook to come in from my Libby app. It is absolutely insane to me that this book has been out for like 3+ years and there is still a wait list for the audiobook. And my library has quite a few copies of the audiobook. It's still such a popular book. Then I just have a few books that the holds are going to come in really soon from my Libby app, which is the app that my library uses. The first one is The Queer Principles of Kit Webb by Cat Sebastian. This is Cat Sebastian's newest release. I don't really know much about this one except that it is an historical romance. That's typically what she writes. And I think one of the main characters is a highwayman and one of the characters is an aristocrat, so that sounds like an interesting dynamic. Other than that, I really don't know anything. I actually haven't read any Goodreads reviews or anything like that, so I'm definitely going into this book pretty blind. Let's see. Next we have An Emotion of Great Delight by Tahira Mafi. This is her latest release, and this is one of her very few YA contemporary books. I read A Very Large Expanse of Sea by her. I want to say back in 2018 was when that came out, and I absolutely adored that book. So I'm really looking forward to reading another one of her contemporaries. I also have Sidetracked by St. Abbey. This is book 2 in her Mind F series. And actually what's really sad about this is that I found out today that the author who wrote under the pen name of St. Abbey, she actually recently passed away. I'm not exactly sure what from. The only information that I have was that it was some kind of sudden incident. So that's really sad. My thoughts and prayers are definitely going out to her family, but I am really looking forward to continuing on with this novella series. It's a series of 5 novellas about our main character. I want to say her name is Laura or Lana. I keep getting it wrong every time I talk about this series, but she's a serial killer and she has been slowly killing off the men that did something really traumatic to her 10 years before. And then she is falling in love with this man, Logan, who is an FBI agent who investigates serial killers. I just thought that book 1, The Risk, really set up this series just so well. So really looking forward to reading Sidetracked this month. So now let's get into the massive stack of physical books. I have a couple of historical romances. So first up we have Any Duchess Will Do by Tessa Dare. This is actually the last full novel that I have to read from her. This is also the last full novel of her Spindle Cove series. I am not planning on reading any of her like indie published like older backlist books just because I've heard that those books are not good. So this will be my final novel of hers, which is kind of sad to think about. And with The Bride Bet not really having a concrete release date, that also makes me really sad, but oh well, I'm just going to continue to reread her books over and over again. Yeah, I'm really excited about getting to this one because this seems to be like everyone's absolute favorite book of the Spindle Cove series besides A Week to Be Wicked. This one seems to be a fan favorite as well. I don't know the plot. I don't need to know. It's Tessa Dare. It's going to be amazing. Next we have The Duke Buys a Bride by Sophie Jordan. This is book 3 in her Rogue Files series. I've been binging this series lately. I actually read like the last 3 books of this series last year, and I read the first 2 books of this series earlier this month. So I'm really excited to continue on. This one's exciting because we are finally getting Marcus's story, who is the Duke of Autenberry. He has been heavily featured in both books 1 and 2. All I really know about this is that we have our main character Elise, and back during the Regency era, which I think is when this series takes place, they would have bride auctions. They would literally just put women up on a platform and sell them to the highest bidder. Of course, that's very yikes. And so Marcus sees this woman being sold, and so he buys her, but not realizing that he's buying a bride. He just thinks that he's buying her freedom. So it sounds like it's gonna be a good time. I always have fun with Sophie Jordan. Next up, we have A Quiet Kind of Thunder by Sarah Barnard. This is a book that I've heard Brie from In Love and Words rave about. This is a YA book. I have been meaning to get back into YA, especially because I have so many YA contemporaries on my shelves. I mean, you can see the shelf behind me is like full of YA contemporaries. But the synopsis sounded so good for this one. I know that the main character is a selective mute. So it says Steffi has been a selective mute for most of her life. She suffers from crippling anxiety, and despite her wishes, in most situations simply can't open her mouth to get the words out. Steffi's been silent for so long that she feels completely invisible, but Reese, the new boy at school, sees her. He's deaf, and her knowledge of basic sign language means that she's assigned to help him acclimate. Oh my god. That sounds so good. I love that both main characters have some sort of disability. I think that that is really great. I can already tell why Brie loves this one so much. So really, really excited about this one now. Next up we have Isn't It Bromantic by Lyssa Kay Adams. You guys, this book is finally out. I have it in my hands. Oh my goodness. I actually splurged and got a signed copy, and I'll show you guys. That's Lyssa Kay Adams' signature. You can buy autographed copies of her books from Schuler Books, I think the bookstore is called. I will link them down in the description below if you are interested. But yes, I am so excited because this is the 4th book in the Bromance Book Club series. We are finally getting Vlad, or the Russian's story. So like I said, this one is about Vlad, or the Russian as he's been known as throughout the rest of the series. And this is a romance with this woman, Elena. It sounds like they had a marriage of convenience years ago, and they haven't really been communicating all that much since then. And so he joined the Bromance Book Club to try to figure out a way to make his wife love him. And if that doesn't sound amazing to you, like, who are you? Oh my goodness. I have a feeling this is gonna be spectacular. So the next 2 books are actually off of my 2021 TBR. I made a video about the 21 books I have to read in 2021. I will link that video up in the cards above. I've actually been doing a really good job of getting through that list of books. But the next books I wanted to get through are the This Savage Song duet by V.E. Schwab. I'm gonna show you the covers. This is book 1. This is a YA, sounds like dystopian, sounds like fantastical as well. I don't know, we live in this world where any like horrible act that a human commits creates some sort of monster, and it sounds like our heroine Kate is a human, but August is one of these monsters that has been created. And so that synopsis sounds amazing. I've heard nothing but great things about this duet. I personally enjoy everything that I've read from V.E. Schwab or Victoria Schwab. Next up we have What If You and Me by Ronnie Lauren. This is her follow-up novel from Yes and I Love You, which was a book that I read a couple of months ago. Absolutely devoured and adored that book. It has a very similar looking cover to this book, except that it's red. And this one is about the heroine from the first book's best friend. So now the best friend is the heroine, and we have our heroine Andy. She has pretty severe anxiety, and she also runs this true crime podcast, which definitely has not helped her anxiety. I think if you are somebody who investigates crime, yeah, you're not gonna be a chill person by any means. So she has this grumpy new neighbor. His name is Hill, and he lost part of his leg in a rescue gone wrong. He is a former firefighter, and so I think that she starts to visit him to try to become friends with him, and a romance ensues between the two of them. I already know that I love Ronnie Lauren's writing. These books are surprisingly really steamy. At least Yes and I Love You was. Don't let the cover fool you. The story inside, at least the first book, was absolutely phenomenal, and I have a feeling the second book is going to be just as amazing. Next up we have another new release that I am just so pumped about having in my hands, and that is Flash Fire by TJ Klune. This is the sequel to The Extraordinaries, which is a book that you guys know I absolutely adored. I read it at the very beginning of the year, and it has stuck with me since then. I can already tell you guys that it's going to be one of my top 10 favorite books of the year. This is a YA science fiction, kind of dystopian-ish, but more science fiction, I would say, series about our main character, Nick, who has ADHD. He lives in a world where superheroes exist, and he writes fan fiction about this one superhero known as Shadowstar that he is just absolutely obsessed with and in love with. And his path crosses with Shadowstar and things go on from there. It's just absolutely phenomenal. Most of you guys probably know TJ Klune from The House in the Cerulean Sea, which is an adult book. This is more YA, and it's gay, it's got superheroes. What more could you want? There was a bit of a cliffhanger at the end of book 1, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how TJ Klune continues the story in this one. Next up, we have another YA contemporary, and that is Wild Blue Wonder by Carly Sorosiak. This is a book that I've had on my shelf well over a year. Like I said, I've had YA contemporaries just sitting on my shelves for a very long time because I've definitely been neglecting that genre. I don't really remember what this is about, so I think I'll just read a bit of the synopsis. Okay, so this one sounds pretty heavy. I do vaguely kind of remember what this was about. But we have our main character, Quinn. Her family owns a summer camp. One summer she falls in love with her best friend Dylan, but there is a really bad accident and now Dylan is gone. The camp is a lonely place and Quinn knows it's her fault. But the new boy in town, Alexander, doesn't see her as the monster she believes herself to be. Ooh! That sounds heavy, but it also sounds like it's going to be really good. And last but certainly not least, we have The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. Oh my goodness, I have made it to the third and final book in the Poppy War trilogy. The way that the Dragon Republic, which was the second book, ended was just so cool and interesting that I'm really interested to see how R.F. Kuang wraps up the story in this final book. Alright guys, that's going to be it for my August TBR. I would love it if you would leave a comment down below if you want to talk to me about some of the books that you plan on reading in August. And with that being said, I would love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you in advance if you do, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!